All right, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to the UIF Community Podcast. This is your host, Mor Chikin. I'm here with my amazing co-host who's finally back after a long time. We're missing you guys.
That long.
Uh, we'll get into it, right? But before we get started, just want to remind everyone, the podcast itself is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed are those of the individual presenters and do not necessarily reflect UIF Corporation or its affiliates. Obviously, I have to read that so our compliance team doesn't beat me up. You never know what Aijaz might say on this show, so got to be careful. But I want to get into introductions. We got a really special show, kind of going back to our roots on this community podcast. Today's episode, we're going to take a closer look at what makes Chick-fil-A one of the most successful companies in the fast food industry, and not because of its food menu, all right, but because of its unique business model and faith-inspired growth strategy. All right, so we're interested in how their stores have become the highest grossing restaurants in the fast food sector, and no one's really even close. And we're going to discuss their customer first strategy and why a chicken restaurant decided to use cows to brand their own business, right? It's very interesting, as those who follow Chick-fil-A probably know them quite well because of that. Aijaz is going to walk us through some of the big themes from a very famous book, Covert Cows and Chick-fil-A, the book by Steve Robinson, Chick-fil-A's former chief marketing officer. The book's going to give us a behind-the-scenes look at how the company built trust, created an authentic brand, and developed a disciplined, values-driven approach that set it apart from competitors. These are principles that go beyond fast food, and they apply to any business looking to grow with purpose and consistency. But before we get into analyzing the Chick-fil-A business model, like we always do, wanted Jaz to talk about the housing market, mortgage market outlook, because we have some big news in the industry recently. We're recording today as of September 19th, Friday, September 19th, and we had some big news in the housing market. And we also want to discuss Ajaz's recent trip to Scotland and Ireland. He wasn't gone for 2 months, folks. I know it seems that way. He only went for, I think, a week or 2 weeks, but got a lot of great details Ajaz wanted to share, just about travel in general, but also specifically about his recent trip. So let's not waste any more time. I want to get into it, Ajaz. So did you want to talk about your trip first, Ajaz, and how all that went, Scotland, Ireland?
Yes, Umar. And I want to start off by wishing everybody salam and, may God's peace be upon all of you. It's been a while since we did the last podcast recording. It's been very, very busy. Summer is a very busy time for all of us at UIF. With the home buying season, and then we had our own company trips, and I was traveling. So apologies, and those of you who were waiting on us to launch a podcast. Sorry about the delay, but we're excited to bring on a wonderful business model study for all of you. But as Umar said, before we get into the book itself and some of my research on the Chick-fil-A business model and just studying and researching the company itself online, I want to talk a little bit about, as you said, Umar, the one of the things I find most joy in is the traveling, and I have a whole bucket list of places and countries I want to visit. I'm very blessed that I've been to many, many countries on my bucket list already. But the most recent trip I just did to Scotland and Ireland, I thoroughly enjoyed. You go to some trips and you're like, oh, it's beautiful, it's good. Some things are better, some things are okay. But in this particular trip, I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a 2 week a getaway for me. I turn everything off, shut everything down, and really just focus on just enjoying the experience and the journey, if you will. Also, more as you know, and we've talked about this, I'm not one of those people who plans things out and really tries to do it all on my own. For me, the work itself is so stressful for us working and managing UIF that when I travel on a vacation, I just want to be treated like cattle, basically. Get on the bus, get off the bus. Everything is planned out, which to me makes my life very easy. So get up be downstairs for breakfast 8 in the morning. Get in the bus, and the whole agenda is set up for you. So with that said, this particular trip, I used a group called My Ireland Tours, highly rated tour company, and I would highly recommend that for most people, just because life is much simpler and easier when it's all planned out. You also don't have to worry about driving on the wrong side of the road, especially if you're renting a car and trying to do this yourself. So it was a 2 week getaway. We started in Edinburgh. I didn't know much about Scotland. Heard a little bit more about Ireland before, but Scotland to me, I thought was absolutely fascinating and amazing. Old world charm with some of the new world in there. Umar, I know you love golfing. I used to love. Now I play when I get a chance. But the home of golf, St. Andrews is over there. So I had a chance to visit St. Andrews and walk the 18th hole, and amazing golf courses, hugging the shoreline. But more importantly, it's the history, right? So Edinburgh is one of the cutest cities. Also, Diagon Alley. Those of you who probably watch or have watched Harry Potter movies, that street is modeled after that. I believe it's called Queen Street or something in Edinburgh, but it's very popular. You see all these kids hanging around
Right.
in Harry Potter outfits and stuff. So, but Scotland was very beautiful, amazing. The coastlines and stuff. The city. Some of the other cities like Glasgow and stuff are okay, but mostly it's all about the greenery, the sheep in the meadows. People are very friendly. Then kind of went towards Ireland, went to Killarney, went to Cork, some of those towns on the coast. Another thing I really liked about Ireland was the people, super friendly. They're also very in tune with what's going on in the world and big supporters of the what's happening in the war in Gaza, and many Palestinian flags noticed on stores and stuff, signs saying supporting Gaza, which was kind of nice to see that the world is acknowledging what's happening and hoping for a quick and fair resolution over there. So. Food was good. I thought food might be disappointing a little bit. I'm a big foodie, so but in most places,
So,
you
what did you eat there? What's kind of their cuisine for those who may not know?
Oh, I ate a lot of a fish fry. That's their big thing, right? So, oh my God, you get
Okay,
tired. I had a fish. I was eating a lot of fresh seafood a lot over there because it's so seafood. They're known
right.
for seafood, so that was there. But the fish fry was a big thing. But you get tired of that after a while. I mean, the greasy food. But even other than that, a lot of choices, even for halal restaurants in Ireland and stuff. A lot of Arab restaurants. There were a lot of Indian Pakistani restaurants as well. So it was a great trip. The people, I guess, people friendly. The venue, the location. I mean, all I can say is it should be a must do for people if you're planning for something like a getaway, whether it's historical, cultural, romantic. I think this trip pretty much can check off all the boxes, Omar.
No, it sounds fantastic, and yeah, I mean, you don't have to tell me to go to Scotland and Ireland. I'll be there in a heartbeat the second I get a chance, inshallah, one day. But what I wanted to ask you, just a couple things, right? So, what were the maybe two or three best spots that you saw there? You sent me some pictures while you're on the trip, some of the historical sites, natural history sites that on the pictures looked amazing. So I can't imagine how amazing they were in person. So, do you want to just share that maybe the top two or three places on the trip that you visited?
Yeah, it's been a few weeks now, so some of the names I'm starting to forget, but Cliffs of Moher were absolutely one of the most fascinating venue points. You get up high on this mountain, and then you have this gorgeous view of these cliffs hugging the coastline of the ocean. And luckily, the weather is usually rain. It rains a lot over there, but
Right.
I was lucky that we basically had the 2 weeks I was there. Rain was like 3 days maybe, but there were many parts, mostly where you against the ocean and against a backdrop of these amazing golf courses. So I would probably say the names I'm having hard time remembering all the name, but Killarney, Cork, Cliffs of Moher, Edinburgh as a city. Dublin is more of a sort of a city capital right on the river. It's kind of a cute city, but to me, I think Chicago downtown is better, frankly speaking, with the river and the lake here. So
A
so
little bit of bias there,
maybe,
Jazz.
maybe I'm a little biased over there, but you can't compare Chicago downtown compared to much bigger and much nicer. So I think if you go there, really you're not going there for the cities as much or more, other than Edinburgh in
Yeah,
Scotland. It's more about just the coastlines and just seeing the beautiful scenic views, the water, the green pasture. It rains a lot, so the city is very green. That just comes to mind.
yeah.
Um, One night they arranged for us to stay in a beautiful old like a castle in Scotland, and you see a lot of these old castles, which I really I'm a big I'm not a big museum inside kind of guy. So when I go to these trips, I love the outdoors. So for me, mountains, beautiful scenery, the lakes, the water, the rivers, the castles. This is something I really enjoy, and I think this trip pretty much checked off all these boxes. So hence I'm
Okay.
like highly recommending for everybody.
Okay. So, Jazz, for those who, because you do travel a lot, and myself, I travel, mostly in the U.S. a lot of the times, not internationally so much. But if I wanted to go international, for those who are looking, I mean, you do a lot of traveling, and you've gone to a lot of faraway places. But how do you plan where to go on vacation, right? Like destinations, right? And then how do you plan on what to do on these trips, right? Like you kind of already kind of hinted at that and discussed a little bit, but just for our viewers who are interested in travel, and we're going to bring on some guests who have some travel tips as well. But like practically, where do you plan to go on vacation? What motivates you, and then how do you plan on what to do on the trips?
Yeah, to me, vacation is a very personal thing, and everybody has everyone vacations differently, right? Some of us love, for example, international travel. Some of us love just going to one destination, like an all-inclusive, and sitting on a beach somewhere. Some people love cruising. I love cruising, so I highly recommend people to go on some of the larger, bigger, newer ships. If you go on a cruise, food is amazing. You stop at different destinations. So I've done over 10 cruises in my lifetime. To me, it just comes down to what have I not done yet? What country have I not visited yet? I have a list of places. For example, like in my list, when I look at the list, and the list keeps getting expansive because when you travel, you meet people who also have traveled, and then you start sharing experiences about, hey, where did you go? What did you do? What is something that you'd want to visit?
Right.
And then you find out places. So, for example, a few people on this particular trip mentioned, oh, if you haven't done, I've been to last trip last year had done Thailand, Vietnam, Hong Kong, etc. There, many people mentioned you should go to Singapore, you should try Malaysia, maybe Indonesia. This time around, people over here talked about going to Spain and Portugal, go there, Japan. So I have things I have not been to, but you got to figure out like what is the like your list of your top 10, right? Like in that
Sure.
Africa, South Africa, and Safari. So those are things that are on my list that are coming up now, that I'm looking forward to. And then you got to decide: do you want to do this by yourself, so you do all the planning and preparation yourself, or do you just join a group? I tend to join a group whenever possible because it's just easier to do that. Even when our kids were younger, daughters were younger, we used to do groups anyways because I just felt it's just so much more simpler to do that. And then you just have to kind of figure out what works for you, what's best for you, and go from there.
Sounds good, Justin. I appreciate it. And we'll wait for the next trip that you go on, get some more feedback. Where's the next one? Where are you narrowing it down yet? Where you want to go next?
I have a bunch of them. I also look to see time of the year, weather,
Sure.
pricing. Dollar is getting weaker now, Omar. Of the last dollar is hitting now the lowest point in the last 3 years. A year or two ago, dollar was so strong you could vacation for cheap. A lot of these currencies were a lot cheap,
Right.
lot lower, right? So you could go to Europe. The euro was down, the British pound was down, the foreign currencies. Now it's completely flipped. Now the dollar has come down quite a bit over the last. We're hitting a 3-year low literally yesterday, so it's becoming more expensive to vacation overseas now.
Right.
So that factors in too. So I'll probably look to see. Japan is something that I've been really contemplating. I've heard a lot of good things about Japan, so maybe like a 10-day trip
Right.
to Japan, maybe safari into South Africa. I've heard so much good about South Africa. Go to South Africa for a few days maybe, and then do like a 5-day safari or something. So, and then Spain and Portugal. So these are probably the top three. Umar, I'm kind of scanning right now,
That's good. Yeah.
and then we pick one for next year.
Okay. No, sounds good. Speaking of the dollar going down and all that, right? I guess we could segue to our economic outlook. So today we're recording Friday, September 19th, Ijaz, and as you know, and probably the whole country knows who's been paying attention to the economy. We had some big news just a couple of days ago. Not surprising news, but big news regardless with the recent rate cut that the Fed just took care of. Can you talk about what are we looking like in terms of the housing markets? A lot of news in the housing market recently with rates going down and possible refinance boom coming, and we're certainly hoping for that here at UIF as well, inshallah. To help with business and things like that. But what are your thoughts, and what are you looking at right now in terms of the housing market?
Yes, Omar. So one of the things, when we do these podcasts, besides a theme, a topic, a guest, or a book, we try to sort of, impart our knowledge on our listeners. We say about, invest in your intelligence. That's kind of a tagline when we do these podcasts. One of the things we are sort of pseudo experts on is the housing and mortgage markets, just because we live it, we breathe it every day. We see real time data. So my thoughts, my views. I'm no expert per se in these topics, but what I do is spend a lot of time learning, researching, listening to the experts in the industry. So being in 32 states that UIF operates in, we get data in terms of applications, and talking to our people on the ground, we get some thoughts on, hey, how a market's performing relative to one another. So how is New York doing versus Texas or Chicago or California? So we get that data. But I also listen to experts in the field, whether they're CEOs from home builders, mortgage financing companies, and so forth. And also, I'm on a subscription list with Zillow and Redfin and a lot of these companies that put out a lot of data, real time data on what's happening out there. So my thoughts really here are encompassing not only what we are seeing ourselves, but also what I'm listening, reading from the experts in the space, if you will. So some of the key trends, right? So number one, um, I've been saying that our housing industry was in a very tough position last few years. Obviously, inventory issues were there. The rates were super high. A lot of the younger buyers were priced out of the market. So we were really in a bad situation. What I can confidently say now is we're moving from a bad situation to sort of a improving situation. So I'm not going to say we're there yet or it's great or whatever. It's not. We all know that it's a tough
Right.
situation. But I think we hit the bottom. Now we're slowly making headway in there. So what are some key trends, right? Number one, the number one driver of housing markets is what's happening to the interest rate markets, which is basically that governs the industry. So the even though we do not engage in a business that has interest and loans, etc., but because we are in the same space, it impacts us, the housing markets, the mortgage markets, because our capital, what we raise, what we have to share with the investors, what we can outsource and bring in investors to invest in our programs and products, all of that is impacted by real world data, the real what's happening in the economy, what's happening to the just generally what's happening to the interest rates markets. Our Fed, FOMC, literally on Wednesday announced that they, for the first time in over almost a couple of years, are starting to cut the rates. Now, when they cut the short-term rate, it impacts the credit cards, the cars, car loans, etc., immediately. But it also impacts the long-term rates, which impact housing markets as well. So we have noticed over the last year, the rates have come down. The housing market, the rates have come down, which is helping the market. So we have gone from over 7.5% on a 30-year almost to 6.5 and heading lower, right? So that's great news for us. In many markets, the home prices have finally turned around. They're starting to slowly come down. Not at a big level, but the markets have definitely turned from more of a seller's market, where sellers could demand whatever they wanted, and there were multiple buyers competing to buy homes. Now more so to a buyer's market, where the buyers can go in and make aggressive offers, and some sellers are desperate because they've been trying to sell, or the intention was to sell for the last couple of years. They've been holding off, but now they have to sell for life events, divorces, and family formations, and people moving from bigger homes to smaller homes. In the case of retirees and so forth. So these are positive trends for us. Lennar Builders announced their earnings yesterday, and I was listening to their call, their CEO speak, and basically it was a terrible earnings report. I mean, or Lennar came out and said, you know what, we are having to sell homes and to meet the street estimates of the homes that they have to sell each quarter. They're having to heavily discount pricing. they're having to give huge incentives. In some markets, they're not discounting home prices, but they're giving lots and lots of incentives. They're giving incentives to buy down the pricing and so forth. And they don't see that trend improving because now more inventory is coming to the market. So they're competing with the existing home inventory coming in. So new construction is staying weak a little bit. So if you want to buy a new construction home, you probably can get a good deal or negotiate hard for incentives and so forth. Uh, but the existing home inventory, as it keeps improving, I think it'll be good for the community. Affordability is still a big issue. A lot of younger people are really priced out of the market. So it's that stuff. Forecasts coming in from a lot of these people I'm listening to, what they can't handicap is a recession coming or not, because already unemployment trends are looking poor. The unemployment rate is going higher, which is very concerning because that would directly impact the housing markets. So those are things they're watching closely to see what the tariff impact is going to look like. A lot of this uh, going after these labor, a lot of the labor are from Latin American countries. They're running away because they don't want to be in the country because of all these ICE raids and stuff like that. So labor is being impacted. So there are so many unknowns right now in terms of what's happening, that unless and until you get more clarity on the job market, on the recession, on the tariffs, it just seems like it's going to be hard. As you know, I always tell our team, we're in the adapting business, we're not in the predicting business. So at UIF, one of the things I tell our team is, if we focus on our core mission, which is to take care of our customers, focus on customer service, focus on our pricing to keep it competitive, then no matter what happens around us, it becomes less and less relevant to us, because if our customers trust us and come to us for what we do best, which is providing great service, great pricing, then yeah, I mean, we'll be a little bit insulated compared to the industry in general. But at the end of the day, we're hoping and praying that the rates keep coming down, so it helps the housing markets, helps our business and our community at large. So that's sort of the rough housing market update I have for you, Omar.
I appreciate it, Jazz. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of different moving parts here, just like there always are with the economy. But certainly we're in a better place, I think, than we were 6 months ago, where rates are going down. Obviously, and I think you'd probably agree with this, Jazz. Usually, when rates are going down, though, that usually spells trouble for the rest of the economy in some cases, right? Especially with job situations for certain people. So we it may get worse before it gets better. I think in that sense, currently as of middle end of September 2025, so we'll have to see where it goes from here. But in any case, you know, we're talking about obviously economic trends and things like that. But I wanted to now just get into our main
Can
discussion
I
with Chick-fil-A.
just comment one part
Yeah, go ahead, Adjust.
very quickly on this one? So, when people find out what I do for a living, the question always comes out, hey, do you think it's a good time to buy a house, right? And I always maintain this. Listen, if you're buying a primary home, you shouldn't be waiting, because you can be
Yeah,
living in there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. What's the point of trying to time the market for that? You can never time the market for that. Investment properties, you got to pick and choose moments and times, and whether it's good value, not value. But for us, most of the work we do is in the primary home, people who are buying the home to live in. I say you can't wait for that. You can always buy a home and then you can refinance. People, we financed homes even a year, 2 years ago at 7.5% and so forth, when the rates were up to 7.5 on 30 year. They can very soon take advantage and refinance. So that's what we're seeing now, is that more and more
yeah,
people are coming back to us and saying, hey, listen, I had bought the home at 7.5% or 7%. Now, as we get closer to 6% on a 30-year financing, can I refinance? And the answer is yes, because you can refinance and we can help you lower the payment. And so we're there for you, whether it's good times, bad times, rates at high times or low times. So at the end of the day, I think people should not wait. Go ahead and buy. You can always refinance, like we're doing right now. We're starting to do right now for some of our customers.
yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. So overall, I feel like the mood is in generally positive as we head into the next year. But we'll have to wait and see. Allah alam at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the same principle, just in terms of people are looking to buy a primary home, Ajaz, if they're thinking about refinancing, reach out to one of our representatives here at UIF. We can run the numbers for you. There's no application fees, anything like that. So all that is free, and our representatives are on standby. They've helped several people, like you said, Ajaz, refinance recently. So it doesn't hurt to check. Reach out. I'll have more information on that at the end. But yeah, I wanted to get into this discussion about Chick-fil-A, does. So that's our main topic today. We want to talk about Steve Robinson's book, Covert Cows and Chick-fil-A. So Jazz, can you walk us through the key themes and takeaways, and then what we'll do is we'll kind of explore how these lessons can apply beyond the fast food industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Umar. I mean, this is sometimes, we learn, we get better as human beings, as a company, by learning the successful business models and growth strategies of successful companies, right? So this is something that I have always been fascinated by Chick-fil-A. Like, I have, you know, obviously we're not here today, and you talked about that we're not commenting about the food, because obviously our Muslims with halal and stuff, but not Chick-fil-A's. The chicken is really not halal unless you are happening to be in Mississippi. And to my knowledge, one of the directors on our UIF board, Dr. Mirza, is a co-founder of Marjack Poultry, and to my knowledge, and I confirmed this with him, they do supply many Chick-fil-A's in Mississippi area with halal chicken. But obviously, I don't know which ones and stuff, so I'm not going to comment on that part. But
Sure.
but other than that, to me, even if you are strictly halal, I would recommend you to walk into maybe Chick-fil-A, get their waffle fries, which to me are absolutely amazing. I love their frosted lemonade and so forth. So, but bottom line is, what I always just walk in and amazement is how amazing the employees are, how clean the restaurant is, generally speaking, compared to other fast food places. And
Right.
it always, I want to inquire, like, what do they do differently? What have they done? And then as I read this book, and you referenced that book, Steve Robinson's book, he was for 30 years worked very closely with the founder, chief marketing officer, and he laid out the success strategy of Chick-fil-A. And then I also did some independent research on through Google, through YouTube, etc., about the how Chick-fil-A operates and runs, etc. So I have some thoughts I've put together. So our community, even if you're starting a new business, many of the lessons, if you run a business or if you're in upper management in a company, you can implement some of these business strategies in your own business to your own success, right? So I'm going to divide my talk over here on Chick-fil-A into four topics, right? One is, I'm going to first start off with some fun facts, a little background by you about Chick-fil-A. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about their business strategy, what made them successful. I'll then pivot to their franchise model, what makes it a little bit unique compared to some of the other franchise models. And finally, I'm going to talk a little bit more about their raving fan strategy, which is a concept they pioneered, which is to do with how do you create raving fans that keep coming back and keep referring people to you, right? So I'm kind of breaking it
Right.
down into four. So if you allow me more, let me just dive right into the fun facts
Absolutely.
and
Go
background.
ahead, Jazz.
So, uh, you know, uh, this Chick-fil-A actually was started by a gentleman by the name of Samuel Truett Cathy. He goes by the name Truett. And he actually ran a restaurant, a diner before Chick-fil-A with his brother Ben, and it was semi-successful, nothing big deal. But then he came up and he said, maybe we should start offering these chicken sandwiches. So he came up with this proprietary way of doing his breast of chicken sandwich, and he kept on perfecting it. And then they realized that sandwich became like their biggest seller. So he said, why run this diner offering so many different products? Why don't we just focus all the energy into this chicken sandwich and put the whole concept behind this chicken sandwich and other products around the chicken sandwich? He was very deeply a spiritual Christian person, a man of a lot of faith, and I like that about it, because at UIF too, right? We operate in the faith-based industry in Islamic financing, and a lot of the concepts that we utilize too have parallels to how Chick-fil-A runs versus how we try to do things. So him being, and still today, right? I mean, there's no Chick-fil-A anywhere in the world open on Sundays, because he always said that's the rest day. You give the employees a chance to go to church and so forth. At a very high cost of of dollars and cents that he's willing to sacrifice, Chick-fil-A still does more business per store than any company out there. So that shows how faith can come in, and you can do the right things while trying to balance sales and profitability and so forth. So, anyways, so he started this franchise in Atlanta in a mall called Greenbrier Mall. in 1967, and he was kind of running it until he passed away at the age of 93 in 2014. Uh, they couldn't patent the word chicken fillet, so he added the letter A as in quality. It's A quality, so they added Chick-fil-A, A for the quality, and now it's simply the number one highest grossing chicken restaurant in the country, right? Over 3,000 stores. To give you perspective, each Chick-fil-A does between 8 to 9 million in gross revenue per year. McDonald's does 3.5 ish million. So it is almost 2.5 times what McDonald's does is what Chick-fil-A does, right? And
It's
each and every
incredible.
year, it's crazy. Some of these numbers gonna it's a number one in customer satisfaction year after year. Nobody's even close. It's they just they sponsor a lot of events. Very big into communities and homeless, feeding homeless. A lot of the food is given away to homeless people. So it's all about giving, giving, giving. That's a big part of their background. Uh, little bit of the business strategy, Umar. One of the things that they talk about in the book is, they always saw themselves not as in the chicken business, but more in the people business. And they talked about that, like, we can create a good product, but it's the people that make a difference at the end of the day. I mean, we talk about that at UIF, right? Yeah, any company can give you home financing. That's not who we are. We give you that extra peace of mind because of the faith-based products that we offer. Similarly, we look at ourselves as more in the peace of mind business as opposed to in the people business. They talked about how before you become a great brand, you need to create the right culture, and they focused on that. Before products and profits, they talk about, relationship with God and people has to be there. Uh, do not focus on financial goals. Think long term. And one of the things I really particularly liked was they talked about how don't borrow money. Interest is bad. Leverage is bad. So all the growth the company has experienced has been at no loans at all. So whatever money they make, they invest it back in there, which is a central principle of what we do, which is to avoid
Right.
loans and interest and so forth. So I love that. Company has zero debt. They don't take on any loans. They completely organically grow their company. And one of the things they talked about is, you have to grow slowly. A lot of companies we see, Omar, they try to overextend themselves. They open more stores, the quality falls, they don't have the right people to serve, and then the whole thing comes apart, right? The consistent quality is gone. So he says you should grow slowly, only as fast as you can attract the right talent. Um, a quote in the book I particularly liked was, let our actions speak for themselves. We will not be preacher or an evangelical person. Customers should recognize us for our values and principles. So be that role model, be the example. Don't be preachy. Don't talk about your religion, etc. That's not important. People should just look at you and judge you by your actions as opposed to the words you speak. So those are some of the business strategies, some of the important. Did you want to add anything, Omar, on the
I feel like you're saying all this, Ajay. I feel like you're just describing UIF. So I don't know. Maybe we should just start selling chicken on top of the home and auto. Give a
Yeah.
bucket of tenders whenever we have a customer close. We could just send that over to them. But no, I mean everything you're saying. So much of that, and look, and I think when we discuss a lot of these books, Ajaz, there's so much, crossing over from one industry to
Yep.
the other. What makes one business successful in one industry to another, it's all kind of the core principles like we talked about in Good to Great, the book review that we did previously. If you haven't checked out that episode, feel free to, those who are listening, that was one of the early episodes we did here on the UIF Community Podcast. But what you're saying, a lot of these things are just core fundamentals of any good business. But some of the things obviously unique, like you mentioned, about the interest and kind of taking their time and growing and not trying to over exert themselves. I think that's also very unique. That to me shows you can do it your own way, right? Like you don't have to do it like everybody else is doing in terms of being successful. So that's a wonderful thing to hear.
Over one of the, I think, um, strategic decisions they made. They've always been high about adding humor in their campaigns
Yeah.
and so forth. But a decision they made in believe in 1995, if the date remember correctly. But they decided like they wanted to embark on a new strategy of marketing and promotion. But they were thinking, how do you do it? Obviously, it'd be easy just to take a chicken and do something with it. But one of their advertising company people said, how about we use cows? I mean, our competition really is burgers and stuff. How about we use a promotion where we have the cows telling people to you should
Yeah.
be eating chicken, and that's where the Eat More Chicken Cows campaign came out.
Right.
And I think, I mean, if you live in the U.S., you literally you've driven by these massive billboards where you have these
Right.
Chick-fil-A cows in poor grammar and poor English.
Right.
They're putting these really funny messages, and I just get a smile on my face every time I drive by one of these because these cows obviously they spell poorly and they put up these messages like eat more chicken and it'll be some funny message with that. So the way that came about, and what a mega hit that became.
Right.
And remember, one of the he was the chief marketing officer. Steve Rubin was saying when we first launched him, one lady calls their office and she started getting mad at them. He took the call. He goes, "What's going on?" She goes, "Your cows are teaching my kids to spell poorly. They can't even spell chicken correctly." And that. So he started laughing and he said, "Ma'am, the whole point is the cows can't spell. That's the
Right.
whole." The funny thing is, it's the she goes, so people sometimes take it so seriously, and he was making light that
Yeah.
how this campaign just exploded. And then that has launched to this cow appreciation day now. They have this cow appreciation day, so it's become like a big joke. But
Yeah.
I can't think of a more. I'm sure there are more, but I can think of one that was implemented so successfully, like their cow campaign, where you add humor in a very nice way to further your brand. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I mean, they did numerous Super Bowl ads, right, throughout the years, like 20 years ago that were so well received. Everyone, a lot of times, like my wife, a lot of times, like, she's a sports fan, but most of the reason she watches the Super Bowl is for the commercials, right? Like a lot of
Yeah,
people. And
yeah,
Chick-fil-A, had several of those ads back, like 20, 25 years ago that were just kind of iconic ads, like you're saying, Ajaz, right? So I think that's part of their success, right, is just they had such a great idea that like whenever you see that now, like you're saying, when you drive by these billboards or you see their commercials on TV, that's just one of those iconic advertising strategies that like everybody universally knows, and oh, that's Chick-fil-A, and has literally nothing to do with chickens, which is the craziest part about it, right? It's counterintuitive, but such a brilliant strategy that has served them so well throughout the years.
yeah. I highly recommend. See, this is a video slash audio podcast. So okay, we're not showing any images, but if you, those of listeners who want a quick smile, laugh, chuckle, Google search and just put down Chick-fil-A cow ads, and then go to images. You're gonna get a kick. I mean, there are probably 20, 30 of them, and they're
I'm
all
sure.
very
Yeah.
creative, very funny. So I highly encourage all of you to check out those if you have not. I mean, you've probably seen one or two of them in your neighborhood, but see the other ones that are playing in different areas and country, and they're all, in my opinion, very funny. But I'm going to quickly talk about the franchise model, which really fascinates me
Yeah.
because the many franchise models are built around maximizing income and revenue for the parent company to the detriment of the franchisee. But some of the cool things I liked about this model is, did you know it takes only $10,000 to open a Chick-fil-A store?
No.
Now,
I think you did. Yeah, I remember you did have this talk before about this. So I do. I This is bringing back memories now. Go
yeah,
ahead and
it's. I was like, oh, sign me up. I'm going to open up a store myself.
the initiation fee doesn't sound too bad, but I remember there's a lot more that comes with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It, I mean, the actual cost to put a store is over $5 million, like the construction costs and everything, right? But as a
Sure.
franchisee, you're only
Yeah.
putting $10,000, so the company is basically using its own capital to help you get that store open, right? The
Right.
chance of acceptance into that program to become a franchisee is it's worse than getting into Harvard, right? So less than 1% of 1%
Yeah.
what who will make it in there. Um, so they have very strict criteria of who can become a franchisee. You not only do you have to meet their own metrics and qualifications, and it's a lengthy process to go through to become a franchisee, but you can only own one store at a time. You basically, each franchisee makes about 300,000 on average, and the type of franchisee they try to find, they have to be more than just for the money. So they have to answer the questions. Hey, I'm going to support the employee growth and development, and be able to train. So the backgrounds they're looking for are people who can grow employees. It's about paying it forward, right? We talk about UIF too.
Right.
Like for most of us, we're how do we pay forward to our employees? Because we're all alhamdulillah done well over time, but
Absolutely.
it's all about giving back. So that's how they look at it too. They focus on customer service is so strong. They had done some surveys in the past. The question: what service features make you feel most cared for? What service feature makes you feel most cared for? And based on that, they came up with a must do list for the employees. One, create eye contact and smile. Speak with an enthusiastic tone. Go above and beyond. Pay attention to special needs people, people who have handicap who are coming in, and always answer a thank you with my pleasure. Some of these things that they inculcate that to the employees they hire, and it's very clear. If you go into Chick-fil-A and you see their employees versus McDonald's, other, the difference between the training, the way the employees operate, the way they handle,
Hey,
it's
yeah.
it's it's, it's night and day. It's clearly, and that's all the training, the culture, and one of the things they talk about is volunteer, be charitable, be active in local communities, which has done really well. They give a lot of free sandwiches out to when there are when bad things happen in their community. So this franchise model has been very successful for them. And like I said, they want to do one store, one franchisee per store, because they want all of their attention into that one particular store, and that's how they've grown. So that's kind of the franchise model. Omar, any questions on that, or any thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my resume in and see take a shot at it, Aijaz. You never know what might happen there. But it's crazy. I mean, I think that the selectivity I think shows like kind of what's made them successful, and then like you said about the employees, it reminds me of we talked about I think Disney a few times in the past on past episodes, but it's kind of what sets those brands apart, right? Chick-fil-A and Disney and things like that, because the customer service is just unparalleled, right? Like you just don't get that type of attention to detail and care, and you feel like it's genuine, right? Like they really do, like they're talking. It's like someone you know and it's a friend, right? And they want to take care of you, and you feel that that comes across from their employees, which is incredible, right? So everybody's bought in, and I think again that just kind of goes back to if you're going to have a successful business, everybody from top to bottom has to kind of believe in that core mission. So
Yeah. Let me end with the last part, which I think is very, very important. It's they pioneered this concept called raving fan strategy. Like this, every person walking in should become your raving fan, and they talk about focus on the remarkable, not ordinary. It's not about selling a product; it's about creating experience. So that is their big thing. Is that when people walk in, customers walk into a restaurant, try to make it an experience. So they love it. They like. Usually they'll have the kids playing area. They'll have the way the food comes out, the way the people just warmly say, hey, my pleasure. Every time you say thank you to them, it's a lot
right,
of things that make a big difference. And they also talk about how you know not everything in life is about being rational. A lot of it is being emotional. So you just create
yeah,
that feelings of emotion. Emotion creates fans. And then they kind of talk about the book about some of the core values. They said patience is extremely important, hard work, generosity, love, and forgiveness. These are core values I think any faith-based company is going to incorporate in their messaging, in their behavior, and I think they do that. And I want to end, Omar, with their mission statement that they have, which I guess any faith-based organization can have. It says, to glorify God by being a faithful servant of all that is entrusted to us, and to have a positive influence to all who come in contact with us. So I thought it's a very strong mission statement combined
very
with
deep, yeah, very beautiful
very
thing that
beautifully said, right?
all cultures anybody can agree to that for
Yeah,
sure.
you're the service to God, while you're a positive influence to anybody who comes in contact with us. So all in all, I thought the book was great, but there's so much information on out there about Chick-fil-A. I was just happy and glad that I was able to do read this book, and then follow up with some more research to make it into a nice summary for all listeners here and for the benefit. But that is it from my side. I don't know if you have any closing comments, but it's a good session, and let's
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, definitely. I think that's for anyone who's looking to start a business or even just get into especially customer service, sales, any type of line of work. I think if you have that genuineness, that care for others, it's going to take you a long way in your life and your career. It just kind of goes without saying because people are going to be attracted to you. They're going to want to work with you. So any young professionals who are out there starting their careers, Ajaz and myself, we were once in your shoes. Ajaz a lot longer before than I was, definitely, but in any case, those same principles they are what they are. They're core fundamentals for anybody who is looking to be successful in their life, and have a successful career or business. If you implement those things, you're going to be successful. And obviously, Chick-fil-A goes without saying. When you go to their lines, it's not the customer service, all that, but then the efficiency with how they serve, right? How quickly everything is. Everyone always talks about that and jokes about how, wow, if Chick-fil-A was running traffic in airports and highways, how fast and efficient everything would be. I mean, it kind of goes in their entire operation. So not just their service and care for others, but how they're able to just be so efficient and quick and with speed and that whole thing. Just it makes the whole experience much more pleasant. I'll give a quick example, right? I literally I'm in a kind of a newer neighborhood here in North Dallas, where we've got a lot of new shopping centers being built. So we had a Whataburger, right? Those who are not familiar, Whataburger is a big burger brand here and burger franchise here in Texas. So it takes anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes just to get some fries and a drink for my kids sometimes when they need a snack, right? So Jazz, we were so happy to see that Chick-fil-A was building literally their store next to the Whataburger because we're like, it's going to save us like 10, 15 minutes now just to get some fries, right? And my kids prefer Chick-fil-A anyway, so it's just like a no-brainer. So once we saw that, we're like, oh my God, thank you, God, for this store finally being built here. We don't have to go to Whataburger anymore. No offense to any Whataburger fans who are out there who are listening, because I know Whataburger's out also very intense follower count here in Dallas and Texas in general. But Chick-fil-A to me, second to none, really, when it comes to fast food. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the UIF Community Podcast. Really hope you found today's discussion to be insightful, inspiring, like our previous episodes. So before I forget, don't forget.
I just want to say one thing very before you go. Something
Sure.
came to mind. We have a lot of listeners here. We're closing in on 200,000 listeners for various podcasts. A couple of the big requests from my side. Please talk to your family and friends about our podcast. The more we can get listeners and more people into our system,
Sure.
can attract speakers and of very high caliber, really add value to us. Also, if you know of any speakers, who you think are doing some exceptional work, I don't care what field it is, whether you think but then our listeners can benefit from their knowledge and experience. Please reach out to us in our meeting notes, podcast notes below. We will have a link to email address. Omar, do you know the email address off the top? Like
Yeah, it's going to be feedback@myuif.com. So you can reach out to any comments, questions, anything about the show, recommendations, like Aijaz said, feedback@myuif.com.
There you go. So if you have any, because we're always looking to bring on interesting speakers, entrepreneurs. It doesn't really matter. You send us the idea, and then we can sort of vet the idea, and we can talk, and we can decide if it would be value added for our listeners. So please keep that in mind. And that's it from my side, Omar. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jazz. Yeah, no, thanks for the reminder. And for everyone who's listening, please don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a review, what you think of the episode. And please share it with your friends and family so we can continue to grow this podcast and benefit others, inshallah. And also for, obviously UIF is, the kind of machine behind the entire podcast for us. But check out our website, myuif.com, for more information on our Islamic financing programs and savings accounts that we offer. Until next time, this is Omar Subhani and signing off with my co-host here, Aijaz Hussain. Take care, everyone. As-Salaam Alaikum.